Lights, camera, action.
And the winner is...
Welcome back to the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast, where we take deep dives into the Academy Awards and Best Picture winners and debate whether they should have won or not, with the most likely runner-up. Today is a great episode because it's an instant classic. It was number one on IMDb for the longest time until Shawshank Redemption took it over, and that is The Godfather, American classic. When people think classic movie, this is supposedly what they think of. Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Robert Duvall, endless cast, Diane Keaton, Francis Ford Coppola classic. So that's what we got lined up for today. It'll be going up against Cabaret, which I had seen a couple years ago, but this is the first time you had seen Cabaret.
Yep.
So yeah, hang tight for that. But first, some unfortunate news. I figured it was probably easiest to talk about it right off the bat. And that is what most people have been talking about in the last week or so. But Chadwick Boseman unfortunately passed away suddenly. Maybe not so sudden for the people that knew him, but for the rest of the world, because he kept this close to the chest and didn't really tell people about it, which is absolutely fine. But no one knew that he had cancer, and unfortunately passed away from that recently and died at the age of 42 or 43?
43. Yeah.
43. So, yeah, very, very sad news. Obviously, most people know him for playing T'Challa in Black Panther. It's a Marvel movie, so a little more mainstream. But I know I was first introduced to him in 42 when he played Jackie Robinson. I remember the trailer came out for that. The trailer was great. It kind of opened on him walking, with his wife and baby in the streets of New York, and it kind of had this, I don't want to say hip-hop, but different music tone to it. And I really like the trailer, and that movie is fantastic. But that was my introduction to Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, same here. That was the first thing I had seen him in.
So, yeah, I mean, this one, hit me harder than the ones in the past couple episodes. Mainly, I mean, the easy answer is because, for the most part, everyone else that had passed away that we've talked about on this podcast, it wasn't surprising. It was like, oh, Regis Philbin, that's sad, and he was a big part of at least my childhood, and it's very sad, but he, at the same time, was how many years old, and it just wasn't surprising. This was, a gut punch, because it just felt out of left field. I remember
Well, yeah, I was say, you saw the news on your phone, and you just went, oh my God.
Someone messaged me.
Oh my God, and I was like, oh, what's happening? I'm thinking, something happened to a family member or something. Your reaction was so severe.
Yeah. Well, it was Bo who messaged me that he died, who, if you listen to this podcast and you listen to the Good, Bad, and the Garbage, he's on that with Quinn and I. He's the one who messaged, Matt, did you see that Chadwick Boseman died? And it was one of those things where I didn't believe it at first. And it's weird where, part of your brain, even to right now, is kind of you don't want to believe it because he was so young and he was so prevalent. I felt like you'd see him.
We had just watched The Five Bloods maybe a day or two before that, which he's in. And just to think, oh my gosh, and yeah, my first question was, how? Because, we had no indication that he was sick at all. And like you said, he's in his 40s, he shouldn't be dying.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Cancer, though. He'd been battling it for 4 years. He'd made numerous films while undergoing treatment, chemotherapy, surgery, all these other things. So, yeah, it's just amazing that he was able to do that. And The Five Bloods, I assume, will be his last or one of his last movies. I don't know if he had anything in the... It was kind of like Heath Ledger when he passed away. He had finished filming 2 movies after The Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight had just come out kind of when he passed away. So I don't know if he has anything lined up. I'm sure it'd be pretty, check his IMDb page and take a look. But The Five Bloods will probably be one of his last movies, and it was a smaller role, but he was great in it. And he's one of those guys where in the trailer you go, "That's Chadwick Boseman." Okay, I want to go see that now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And I tried looking into it a little bit and to see like who knew or who didn't know, because apparently Spike Lee did not know. He didn't tell Spike Lee like while he was on set of that movie, and he didn't tell any of his co-stars, which is weird because I did see an article while looking into that. The guy from The Wire who's in The Five Bloods, I can't remember his name, but he's basically the main guy other than Delroy, sorry. He didn't know, obviously, that Chadwick had cancer, and I read an article where I think it was his wife or something asked him, like, "Oh, what's it like working with Chadwick?" And, this is obviously a year or months ago when this was asked, and his response to his wife was, I don't know, I think fame's kind of getting to his head, because he said in between takes people would be like massaging Chadwick's feet and giving him back rubs and doing all these things for him, and he took it as a sign of like, oh, this guy's
pampered.
Yeah, but not. It's like, no, I mean, he was doing that because he had cancer and was probably very tired and needed therapy in between every shot and take, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, you don't know what's going on with people, so it's that thing like, don't be so judgmental up front. Because I remember on Jackie Robinson Day, this was maybe one of the last videos of Chadwick that is shown, or one of the most recent ones, but he posted a video on social media of like, he played Jackie Robinson, and it's like, hey, happy Jackie Robinson Day, this is why he's amazing, yada yada yada, and he looked really skinny, and people were like doing terrible posts and saying terrible things, like, oh, look, Chadwick Boseman, is he, like, saying terrible things, kind of stereotypical, like, oh, is he, like, on crack? Like, why does he look so skinny? Like, look at this, like, this guy who's just addicted to something, like, what's wrong with him? And it's, well, he had cancer. Like, that's why, so maybe people shouldn't be too quick to judge other people.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
So, it just sucks, and apparently he didn't tell people at Marvel because he was very much like, I'm going to beat this, and production on Black Panther 2 is going to start in March. So now there's a decision at Marvel that needs to happen on whether to carry on the Black Panther character. Do you replace the actor and keep the character in T'Challa, or do you make someone else Black Panther? I mean, these are things that in the end don't matter because this man passed away, and that is ultimately the more important thing, but naturally people are going to start wondering about that too, so
yeah, for sure,
we'll see what happens there. But just very, very sad news that I just wanted to talk about right off the bat.
Yeah, and I think one thing that was like so heartbreaking, but uplifting in a way, was to see there were kids, I feel like that, like, entire week, parents kept posting pictures of their kids having, like, memorial services where they had all their Avengers toys out, and they had, Black Panther laying there, and had many, like, memorial services. And it was just heartbreaking because it's, like, this character was larger than life, but uplifting in the sense that, like, these kids felt represented in a mainstream movie and a mainstream, like, the biggest movie franchise ever. And just to see, like, how important a character like T'Challa was. And for someone like Chadwick Boseman to represent him, I think was really incredible. Yeah,
it kind of sucks that, like, this would happen to him, and, like, it's one of the few representative African-American comic book characters, and this happens to him. Again, I know I said that this doesn't matter as much because ultimately this man passed away and that's what matters, but I would prefer them to recast and keep T'Challa because I think his character means that much to people.
I think that's fair.
And I think there's no right answer is the most important thing. Whether you replace the character or replace the actor, people are going to be upset either way, but it would be a shame to have a character that means so much to people kind of get brushed off to the side. But, I mean, I would understand why if that is what happens. I get it.
Like there's
But-
honor in both sides, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could honor Chadwick Boseman in the sense of, no, like, we can't replace him with a different actor, but at the same time, you can honor the character of T'Challa and realize, hey, he's more than just one person, and you could find someone else
I
to
think I saw a tweet
carry
from
on his character.
from Jamel Hill who said like that I'm paraphrasing, but she basically said like they should recast because this character means so much. Like they should.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's just very sad, and there are pictures of him visiting kids with cancer, and he had cancer at the time, and people just didn't know it. And it's
no one knew he had
crazy.
his own battle that he was going through. So yeah.
So on a lighter note, I guess, moving on, I've been watching a lot of Studio Ghibli movies for what I've been watching and everything, so that's been fun, going back to the 80s and some of the older ones that I hadn't seen. So I may, after I watch all of them, I may do some one-shot reviews of each one and rank them or something along those lines. We'll see. But also, I just finished running a little while ago, so I feel like I can just conquer the world, and I feel like I should weigh like 10 pounds lighter, but in reality, if I were to go step on the scale, I would most likely just even weigh more than I did before, because that's not how weight works.
Okay.
You have to run a lot to lose a lot of weight, not just one time every once in a while, but working on it, feeling good and fit, so we'll see. I got to keep it going, but yeah. What have you been up to lately?
Well, I finished watching a Netflix series called Say I Do, which, you mentioned Quinn earlier. You guys do The Good, the Bad, and the Garbage. His wife, April, suggested Say I Do to me, and it's cute. They've got these 3 guys who come in and help people, like, throw a surprise wedding, like, in a week. And, I mean, sometimes the show's a little bit cheesy. It's a little bit over the top, but it's really cute because, like, the couples that they found for the show are just so incredible and so deserving of, like, a wedding of their dreams. Like, they have, one couple who, like, when they got married the first time around, like, they had no money and it just ended up being a disaster. So they kind of had to redo, and then there's a couple where they've had to put a bunch of things on hold because they, ended up adopting their nephews from, their family member who was sick and on drugs. And so it's like all these people just have these incredible stories and they love each other so much. And for me, that was like the coolest part, was just hearing these people's stories. So that was really fun. And then we just started watching the newest season of The Boys on Amazon Prime, which is awesome. I loved the first season, and season 2 just started, and they released the first 3 episodes, and the rest they'll do weekly, so that'll be kind of cool just to control the binge a little bit.
Yeah, I prefer that.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. So that's based on a comic book, correct, or graphic novel? One of those comic book. But yeah, it's kind of like how superheroes would work in the real world. So like, there's a corporation that manages them, and they're signed to contracts, and they're assigned to cities in the U.S. and all this stuff. So, it's very interesting. It's very dark, though. It's gory. Like, it is definitely rated R. So, it's a TV show, but that is definitely mature audiences. There are a number of scenes where I kind of need to turn my head away sometimes. Yeah. But it's good. It's good. They've got some good humor in it. So we started watching season 2, so I'm excited to keep up with that.
Nice. Cool.
That's it.
I also forgot to. I'm watching the Bucks implode their season 2.
Oh my god! Yeah, we have actually been watching a lot of sports, which has been fun.
Fun, air quotes, because you realize you miss it, but then it's annoying.
It's gut-wrenching,
when, we avoided the sweep, but
you forget the sadness that comes with enjoying sports as well. So,
yep.
Yeah.
So, anyways, moving on to the trailer park. We've got a couple here. The first one, talk about, I think it's a Netflix movie, Enola, Holmes. Starring Millie Bobby Brown from another Netflix property in Stranger Things, and I think she was in the second Godzilla movie. This is Enola Holmes is the sister of Sherlock Holmes, and when their mother goes missing, who played by Helena Bonham Carter, which we just did the King's Speech, our last episode, or one of our last episodes. I'm a big fan of hers. When she goes missing and Enola feels like no one else taking the case too seriously, she kind of goes off on her own to solve it. And Henry Cavill plays Sherlock in this. So kind of a top-heavy, star-studded cast.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What were your thoughts on this?
I think this looks kind of interesting. Like, it looks like more lighthearted, a little bit more like childish adventure kind of take. I mean, part of that just because Enola's younger than, you would see Sherlock taking on cases, but I think it sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder how much Henry Cavill will be in it.
Yeah, I get the sense he's not going to be in a whole lot.
That's what I think. He's in the trailer a lot. They make it seem like he's going to be in the movie a lot, but
yeah.
I am with you. I don't think he's going to be in a lot, which is fine, but it's one of those things where they're kind of marketing it like you're going to get a lot of him, but I don't think it, so that might annoy some people. But yeah, I think this is cool. It's, she does some fourth wall breaking in the trailer where she's kind of talking to you, the viewer, which is, if it's done right, like, I don't want to compare this to Deadpool, but Deadpool does that and people like it, but it can be done well or, not well. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, it looks like fun. Yeah, definitely towards kind of a younger audience, I would think. So maybe we'll watch it, we'll see how the vibe is. But yeah, looks like it would be good. Mm-hmm. Give it a shot. It's Netflix. That's always a little, give it a little bit longer of a leash.
Yes, exactly.
The next one I've got, I think it's kind of an indie film, but On the Rocks, starring Bill Murray and Rashida Jones, father-daughter, kind of connect, relationship building kind of movie, I would say. Rashida Jones is married and thinks her husband is cheating on her because he does all these late night works. It's like kind of a cliche at this point, right? Like, my husband is working late, he's probably cheating on me.
I was going to say, I don't think she thinks about the cheating as seriously as her dad does. She's like, we're in a rough patch. We're, not connecting like we used to. But Bill Murray's like, oh my God, no, he's cheating on you. So it's, you're right. They kind of have weird bonding over the fact that her husband might be doing something outside their marriage. We don't know.
Do people like Bill Murray as much as they used to these days?
I mean, I've never understood, like, the massive love for him. Like, he's entertaining to me, but I could take him or leave him.
Because this is an app I haven't even talked about in the longest time, but he was big on Chive, right? The Chive app. That was kind of like, they would put him on t-shirts and stuff, and that's where maybe he gained some popularity with some of the younger, like, demographic people. Yeah. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Bill Murray mainly for the movies he made in the 80s and early 90s, Groundhog Day, Ghostbusters, Scrooge, like all the classics. But I feel like the love of Bill Murray is kind of worn off a little bit. Yeah. So I wonder how this will go, especially, what was it? It was golf related. Was it the DJ, Ricky, Matthew Wolf, who am I forgetting? Rory, like charity match they had in the middle of COVID. They brought Bill Murray on to talk during it, and the whole time I was like, get him off the screen. He is rambling about nothing, trying to make jokes that are not landing. I don't know. I think Bill Murray's one of those guys, like, you think of his movie roles, but when I think of just Bill Murray, I don't know, I don't get as excited. But
yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the last great movie he's made, because he did that similar to we'll see if it's similar to this, but I get similar vibes, where he made a movie like this with, was it Melissa McCarthy? St. Vincent or something like that.
Yep, I think that's right.
And that one, I remember, like, it got okay reviews. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the last time Bill Murray had let's look at his filmography.
But yeah, so I mean, really, it looks like in this movie, just to share a little bit more of the plot line here, it's Bill Murray's kind of like, hey, your husband might be cheating on you, so let's track him. Let's figure out where he's going, who he's talking to, so they can find out if he's cheating or not. And she's reluctant to go along with it, but seems like, in the end they kind of, team up to see what's going on.
This movie could be good. Like, it's done, if done right. It's kind of a subject that it isn't new, right? Like, it isn't a groundbreakingly new story, but if done in a different way, it could be good. So here's his filmography. He was in Zombieland 2, which I'm sure was just a cameo. He's always in those Wes Anderson movies. So he was in Isle of Dogs. He was in the new Ghostbusters with Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig and all that.
Oh, yeah.
He was the voice of Baloo in Jungle Book. Rock the Casbah, which is another kind of indie-ish movie. I remember seeing a trailer for and being like, I don't know, that kind of like this, or I'm kind of on the fence of it, and it turns out it wasn't that good. Aloha, Dumb and Dumber 2 he was in. That's not good. St. Vincent, the one we were thinking of. Grand Budapest, another Wes Anderson. The Monuments Men, which was a movie that people expected a lot out of and completely flopped. Moonrise Kingdom, another Wes Anderson. Zombieland was a cameo. City of Ember was a mess. Get Smart was a comedy. Garfield 2, there's a winner. Life Aquatica. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I was worried that this would be the case. If you take out Wes Anderson stuff, the last, I'd say, good movie he made was Lost in Translation, and that was 2003, which is his only Oscar nomination. So, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Looks like a small indie movie, so it kind of is what it is, I guess. And then also in the last week or so, DC had their version of Comic-Con, the DC Fan Dome.
It's play on fandom, I take it. It's clever. Dome. It's really clever.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah, they're smart over there at DC, Warner Brothers.
Detective Comics. They're clever there.
It's like ATM machine.
Yes.
I know that drives you up a wall, too.
Yeah.
But I just typed up some of the things that had some news come out for it, and we can just go through these kind of quickly, one at a time. The first panel they had was Wonder Woman 84. They released a new trailer for it. We finally see Kristen Wiig in both fighting as a human, but also in cheetah form, she looks like a humanoid cheetah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did you think of the new trailer for Wonder Woman 84?
I think it looks awesome. I was excited for this before, but it's almost like having the new James Bond trailer. Like they give you more details, and so I'm more excited for it now.
Yeah. This is one where this would have come out how long ago, so it's here's
July
a
or something.
New trailer to hold you over. But yeah, it's so... I'm guessing, I've talked to you about this a little bit, but I'm assuming the plot is Pedro Pascal's character. In the first trailer we saw has these magical crystals, which reminds me of Danica Patrick a little bit with her crystals. It's kind of weird. But, oh my God. And then this new trailer, he's on a nation or worldwide telecast telling people, you can... any wish you want will come true. So I'm assuming these crystals have some kind of wish-giving properties, and Wonder Woman, I'm assuming her wish is she wants Steve Trevor back, and that's why Chris Pine's Steve Trevor shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And Kristen Wiig's character is, I want to be a predator, apex predator, so I assume she gets the properties of a cheetah in this, or a predator, but she stays a human, and... I'm assuming after Wonder Woman or Diana kind of takes care of Pedro Pascal and reverses those effects and returns the world back to normal, which will probably be the disappearance of Steve Trevor as well. Kristen Wiig probably loses her powers and then undergoes some weird experiment to get her powers back, and a side effect is she turns into a physical cheetah.
Yeah.
That's my guess at what happens in this movie. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of looking at the trailers and what I think will happen. So we'll see whether that happens or not. think of the look of the cheetah, because I'm sure people will talk about that. You only see a little bit of it, and it's kind of in shadows at night.
Yeah.
But I heard some people kind of making fun of it. I didn't think it was that bad.
No, I didn't think
It'll
it was
probably
that
be
bad.
something where it won't be the best looking thing ever, but I didn't think it looked that bad.
No. I mean, you put anyone next to Gal Gadot in her Wonder Woman costume. I mean, the scene that they have in the trailer is her in that, like, full-on, like
the golden eagle.
Yeah, just, it's incredible. So no matter what you put next to it, it's not going to look as good anyway. So they're like, why should we put effort into this? Gal Gadot's she's the moneymaker. So
Chris Pine, funny
Yes.
as always, with
the fanny pack.
Yeah, I love that. He's just like, all right, I'm ready to go, and then he looks normal, and then he just turns the fanny pack around, and it's like, oh no,
They're really
we can
banking
do,
on
we
some
can do better.
80s stereotypes here. for
Parachute
sure.
pants. Does everyone parachute now? Which is kind of funny. It's kind of reverse of the first movie, right? Like Steve Trevor's
yeah.
the one introducing Diana to the world, and now it's flip-flopped, so it's kind of funny. Or like he didn't have radar back in the day, and now they have radar, and he's like, oh wait, they can see us? So kind of funny. And
Yeah, he'll provide some good comic relief, I think.
And you see Wonder Woman riding the lightning with her lasso a couple times, which looks awesome.
That was cool. That was really cool.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. That part was awesome.
Yeah, I think that looks cool. So I think hopefully it's good. It looks really good, and no reason to not think it. So, and then the last thing is probably the biggest thing that came out of the fandom, and that is the Batman, and they released a trailer. What did you think of the trailer for the Batman?
This is the Robert Pattinson.
The Rob Bat. Shout out Mr. Sunday Movies from the Weekly Planet. He's trying to turn that into a thing, so I'm going to keep that going for him.
Okay, so this is the Robert Pattinson thing.
The Rob Bat thing, yes.
I don't know. I'm indifferent to it. I don't know why we have 3 different actors all playing Batman at the same time right now. It's like driving me nuts.
Because it's Batman. He is by far the biggest selling comic book character. So the more the better, right? That's probably what they're thinking.
Maybe. I mean, one thing that I think really is appealing is that this is like the young Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. But I don't know. I'm indifferent. It's not one of those things that I'm like dying to see, but like I will see it when it's out. So I don't know. I'm middle of the road.
Middle of the road there. I am very excited for this, mainly because the one thing. So Batman doesn't have any superpowers, right? In the Justice League movie, what's your superpower?
I'm rich.
But other than being rich, his big thing is he's the world's greatest detective. Which I feel like is something that the general public doesn't even know about Batman.
You like quiz me, you're like, what is Batman? Like, when you boil it down, I'm like, I don't know. A person.
He's
you're
a person.
Like, he's a detective. I'm like, oh, I've never thought of him that way.
He's the world's greatest detective. But that's something, it's never been portrayed in movies. And the only time I felt like they tried doing it was The Dark Knight, when there's a bullet in a wall and he takes the brick out, brings it back to his lab and analyzes it, and then shoots a bunch of different caliber bullets at different bricks and like reverse engineers a bullet that has a thumbprint on it. That made no sense to me though in that movie. That was the one thing. Like we should do a review of The Dark Knight because it is one of the best movies and maybe the best comic movie of all time. But that is one part of that movie where I don't understand what is happening here. Like
I don't even remember that part, so maybe it would be good to revisit that.
I think that's the only time they've ever tried it. But with this new one with Rob Bat, it just up front just looks like it's going to be a mystery, a detective story where it happens to be Batman solving it, and that I'm very excited for. I mean, the Riddler, assuming it's the Riddler, looks creepy as fuck. Like the trailer opens with like the sound of duct tape.
Yeah.
And then it shows this person like duct taping someone's face.
Looks very dark.
Yeah. And
which just maybe turned me off a little bit, I guess.
I don't think it'll be the Joker level dark though.
Okay.
Which is, we talked about that the other day where you just felt uncomfortable the entire time
Yes.
watching the Joker. I don't think it's going to be that level. I think it will be, you know, on the darker side of things, but I'm excited for the detective aspect of it. I like what you said, where it's year 2 of Batman, so it's very early in his career as Batman, but he's in with the police. They're letting him into the crime scene and everything,
yeah.
but he doesn't really know what he's doing quite yet. So yeah, I like it. I had another friend say he got kind of the Crow vibes from it, because you get the eye black of Batman or Bruce Wayne, and then you get kind of the Crow vibes, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I'm excited for it. Apparently the Penguin was in the trailer, and it just is Colin Farrell. That it doesn't look like Colin Farrell. It's someone really prosthetic up, and you know, but yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say that I'm worried about it is maybe they're trying to do too much, because there's the Penguin, the Riddler, and Catwoman was in it. Zoe Kravitz was in the trailer.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So like maybe they're trying to do too much. That's the only thing I could be worried about. But I'm very excited for it. And then apparently we just saw this the other day. Robert Pattinson, I almost got that wrong, has COVID, and they had to shut down.
Yeah, so right when they started production, like restarted production, he tested positive.
Yeah.
So
that kind of sucks. But
yeah.
very excited for most of it, but very, very much excited for The Batman. It's one of the best trailers I've seen in a very, very long time.
Okay, should we get into our breakdown of The Godfather?
The Godfather. Let's do it.
My voice is nice and rested after all of the DC talk that you led on, so this is good. My voice is ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, so this movie is from 1972, Best Picture winner. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. He also wrote the screenplay based on the book by Mario Puzo. Marlon Brando stars as the Don, Vito Corleone. His son Michael is played by Al Pacino. His oldest son, Sonny, I think his full name is Santino, but they always call him Sonny, is played by James Caan. And we also have Robert Duvall is their advisor, Tom Hagen. He's kind of like an adopted son of sorts. Like you mentioned earlier, we also have Diane Keaton. She plays Michael's girlfriend, eventual wife, Kay, and the Corleone sister, Connie, is played by Talia Shire.
And Fredo.
Oh, yeah, and then we've got Fredo, too, who's played by John Cazale. I know.
Don't forget about Fredo.
I know. So, bless you, Toby. Dog just sneezed. Excuse us. So this movie was nominated for 10 Oscars. We'll kind of get into 10, 11. Officially, it's 10. One for 3 Oscars. One Best Picture. Marlon Brando won for lead actor, and then also one for writing. The other nominations it had were Supporting Actor, which went to James Caan, Robert Duvall, and Al Pacino. All 3 of them had Supporting Actor nominations. Francis Ford Coppola was nominated for Best Director. They also had nominations for Costume Design, Sound, and Film Editing. 2 somewhat controversial things related to the nominations. It had been originally nominated for Original Score. However, they withdrew the nomination and replaced it with a score from Sleuth, I believe, when they found that the music had been, or at least some of it, had been reused from a previous film that had been worked on. Mm-hmm. So that nomination was taken away. And then also Al Pacino did not attend the awards ceremony because he felt that he should have been nominated for the lead acting role rather than Marlon Brando. So
how do you feel about that?
Interesting. I agree. I mean, he's on, like, I kind of think of him as the main character of the story. So,
well, it's funny.
I don't disagree with him.
I feel like history makes you think it is Marlon Brando. You always think of the poster that's got Marlon Brando on it. So you do, like, you're meant to think he's the lead. But yeah, he isn't in it. Maybe as much as you'd think, and to win lead actor, similar to Anthony Hopkins and Silence of the Lambs, I just don't think the screen time is quite there for it to be lead. But you know, it is what it is, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are all the kind of nominations stuff behind the movie. If you want to kind of talk us through a little rundown of the storyline.
Yeah, I'll do my best on it. This movie is 3 hours long. Mm-hmm. It is quite the hefty movie, but yeah, it opens. It takes place in the 40s and into the 50s, in America. Opens on the wedding of Don Vito Corleone's daughter. So Connie is getting married. I say it opens on it. The first 25 minutes of the movie is this wedding.
Yeah.
So it's quite the long sequence. And per tradition, he is in Don Vito Corleone. He cannot refuse a request made of him on the day of his daughter's wedding. So he's got this line of people asking or requesting things of him, including a couple people where he doesn't really view them as friends, and he's like, you're asking me to basically kill these people. I don't know if I'm going to do that. And he kind of, in true mafia form, does it for them, but under the circumstance of, I'm going to ask you like something down the road. You won't know what it is.
But I'll need a favor.
But I'll need a favor,
Yeah.
Basically, it's just you build up as many favors as possible to kind of get your way. That's how you do things. One of the guys is Luca Brasi, who's just practicing. He doesn't really want anything. He just wants to thank him because he didn't think he was going to get invited to the wedding. And he's just, Michael eventually he's late to the wedding. He shows up with Kay, a Diane Keaton's character. And who is that man, Michael? Oh, it's Luca Brasi. He works for my father. And he's just practicing his Don Corleone. I want to thank you for inviting me to this day of your daughter's wedding. And he does what I just did, and he messes up his line while talking to the Don.
After all of his practice, once he gets in front of him, he screws up his line.
Yeah. So this opening sequence is basically a little bit of exposition where it's like, the characters that kind of telling the audience what's going on, like. Tom Hagen, who's Robert Duvall's character, is the consigliere. He's the lawyer for the family. He's the highest advisor for the family, and I don't know what our dog is doing right now. But anyways, it's this 25-minute scene. You're very much told up front, Michael is not a part of the family business. He is in the army or the military of some kind. And he does not want to be a part of the family business. He loves his family, but tells Kay, like, that's my family, that's not me, I'm not involved. And, the Don, kind of backs him on that. He doesn't want Michael involved too much, but still loves him. And so, yeah, that's basically the opening 25 minutes. And then after that, there's a couple meetings with the rest of the families in New York. But basically, the idea is they're going to be moving away, or the families want to move away from gambling and alcohol as their main source of income, and they want to start getting into narcotics. But Marlon Brando, he doesn't want to do that. He's a bad guy that I guess has a line of morality, and he's like, no, narcotics. I don't want this getting into the kids, or this can truly kill people. Not that he doesn't kill people anyways. And that's his line in the sand of I don't want to do narcotics. And because he's against it, he gets an assassination attempt on his life, while Fredo is really the only one protecting or with him at the time.
Fredo's supposed to be stepping in to drive him or something.
He's not. He does, but there's an actual driver. But the driver calls in sick that day. Right. And Fredo, steps in, and when he gets out of the car, he fumbles the gun and can't really help his dad. And so his dad gets shot, and that's kind of an attempt on his life. And, Sonny is now kind of the one in charge, and that's Santino is kind of more of a hothead. He proves to not be the best head of the family. He's more of I'm going to act now and not really think about the consequences. So he wants to retaliate. Tom tells him otherwise. But anyways, it's basically this big back and forth between the families over you shot my dad, you did this, all this back and forth is going on. And then Michael kind of gets word. He finds out his dad was shot via newspaper and goes to see him. And when he goes to see him, he realizes that all the police have been removed from guarding his dad in the hospital. And that's when he realizes that there's about to be a second attempt on his life. And he gets this nurse to help him move the body. And basically saves his dad's life, and that's when they realize the police are kind of in on it too, because the captain removed the standing guard. And it comes down to Michael agrees to kill the dirty police captain and then the big narcotics pusher, the guy who is putting out the attempts on Vito, because he wants his narcotics in with the family because it'll make him money, and if Vito is pushing back, he wants him killed. And Michael agrees to kill him and the police captain and kind of essentially makes him involved in the family business. So that's a scene where, they figure out the restaurant they're going to be meeting at, and one of Michael's friends hides a gun behind the toilet in the bathroom, and he comes out with the gun, kills them both, and walks out, and then goes into hiding for a year or so. And then while he's in hiding, Marlon Brando, he's still alive, so he recovers. Santino, unfortunately, gets killed. And then...
That was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I liked Sonny.
Yeah.
You said he acts a little more off the book, but
he's maybe my favorite character in this.
Yeah.
Him and Tom Hagen are probably my favorite two characters in this, so... Yeah, I'll definitely talk about that in a little bit. But so he gets killed as a retaliation, and then Vito Corleone is finally, he goes to all the families and goes enough bloodshed. I'm done pushing back. I just want all this nonsense done. I want my son Michael to come back to the States. I want everything to be right. And that's, I think, when he realizes that it could never be right, and they put out one last hit. Oh no, that's a little late. Michael comes back to the States. While he was in Italy, he got married, and then his wife got killed in an assassination attempt on his life. So I think that's the moment that makes Michael ruthless. I think you use that word, because the rest of the movie... So he's back in the States, and he's kind of in line to take over for his father. He's the next in line. Sonny is the oldest son, but now that he's gone, Michael is the stand-in for head of the family.
Because Fredo's
he's kind of a mess up. They even send him off to Vegas to just kind of get out of the way, but he kind of gets involved again. So Vito and Michael, their plan is to leave New York. They want to get out of this mess that's going on and go to Vegas to kind of start over again. Mm-hmm. And right before they do it, Michael decides to just kill all the families and does it. It all happens at the same time. It's this little montage of all these people getting killed. And then Marlon Brando's character kind of dies of kind of natural causes, I assume, and maybe has something to do with his gunshots from earlier in the movie, but kind of dies of natural causes. And then Michael becomes the new head of the family and marries Kay. They have a couple kids, and then the last scene of the movie is, they're moving out to Vegas, and Michael had Connie's husband, who'd been beating her throughout the movie, killed, and Connie storms into the room with Kay and Michael in there and starts telling Michael off. And then Kay is is it true? Did you really have that done? And Michael looks her in the eye and goes, no, it's not true. And she's oh, okay, I believe you, and then leaves the room.
She's so naive through this whole thing.
And as she's leaving, turns back and looks and just sees people kissing Michael's hand, and then call him the Godfather, and then they close the door on her, and that's how the movie ends. So that's a very quick nutshell of what happens. Basically, it's the story of this mafia family in the 40s and 50s, and basically their war against all these other families in New York, and the story of Michael taking over the family. So, it's an American classic, right? A lot of people consider this the greatest movie of all time. So what were your thoughts on this American classic?
Seeing it the first time, it was, it was average to me, but watching it again, I think, because like you said, there's so much that happens in this movie, and so I think being more prepared for kind of what's going on, I appreciated it a lot more the second time around, and really understood a lot more about Michael's motivations and how he changes his tune from being like, yeah, that's my family's business, but I'm not going to be part of it, to being, possibly the most ruthless member of the family. I liked it a lot more the second time around. Yeah, no, I mean, it's 3 hours, so I was kind of like with you where there's probably, going into rewatching it again, there's probably some parts where you can pull stuff out, which there probably is still some parts that you could pull out, but the part where he goes to Italy and gets married and everything, I was initially like, why do you need this in there? Like, there is no consequences to this. His wife dies and then he never talks about her again. And I think that's still true for the most part, but watching it again, I realized that's probably the part that makes him ruthless when his wife gets killed. Mm-hmm. That's probably the turning point in Michael. I do not like Michael's character. His story arc doesn't make the most sense to me because he's very much, no, I'm not in the family business. No, I'm not in the family business. But then he so easily, goes into the family business. I wish there would have been a little more pushback. I don't know. It just didn't make... I mean, I can see that to an extent. I think for me, it was a combination of him, his military... Because he was such a decorated, member of the military. To me, it was almost like he kind of drew on that, no man left behind kind of mentality, and okay, if no one else is going to step in, then I need to be the one to do it kind of thing. He's just I'm going to take care of things, more so just from, so I looked at it more as, he leaned more on his experience in the military to, take care of things. But I will say, the extent, how far he went with things. Like you said, the way he, orchestrated the killing of all the other families, just, whoa, shit, that's a big leap. Mm-hmm. It seemed like. So I think I understood a little bit more about some of his motivations, but I think the extent to which he went, that was a little bit out there for me.
Yeah, and I think that, that's kind of what I was getting along to. It's, the big leaps that he takes in being, he goes from, I don't want to kill anyone, I'm this innocent person, to, oh, I'm killing anyone I want to with cold blood. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I liked Vito's character more, and I have no idea what the intent is, if you're supposed to like Michael or not like him, who you're supposed to like or not, but I like Vito because he still cared about people. Yeah. He's very much, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, but, I don't know, I felt he wouldn't have done what Michael did in killing everyone, which maybe that makes Michael a better head of the family or not, but Vito seemed to have the reputation of being a great leader and guy at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I like him more. And plus, Michael, he's just, God, he's lying to Diane Keaton all the time. Which I get when you're in this business, you have to do.
She's so naive. She doesn't question anything.
No,
she's just whatever.
That last scene was so frustrating where they're arguing and then he says to her, all right, this one time you can ask me about my business. Yeah. And then she asks, and then he lies. Yeah. You're lying. You're just lying to her. I don't picture Vito, Vito with his wife. I picture them having more she doesn't ask, he doesn't tell type thing, but she probably knows what's going on, whereas Michael is I'm just straight up lying to you. So I just don't like Michael's the character of Michael. Al Pacino's portrayal is fantastic, but I just so good. The character I just didn't really like a whole lot. My favorites were Sonny and Tom Hagen. You talked about Sonny a little bit already. He to me seemed like the only one who gave a shit about his sister. Yeah. Connie, she's in this abusive relationship that people seem to recognize and see, and he's the only one doing anything about it. Everyone else in the movie is like, "Oh, Connie, be quiet, stop talking." Like,
well, like the rule is like, "Oh, you should never interfere with someone else's marriage." And it's like she's getting beat up regularly. She's pregnant. Like, geez, take care of her.
Yeah, like I get Sonny was kind of an extreme.
Yeah,
like his tendency was to be violent up front, but he at least gave a shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was my favorite. I was sad and upset when he got killed. And
I know. I had forgotten about that part, and then I'm like, oh gosh, I know what's happening now, and it was so sad.
Because he was on his way to see Connie.
Yeah.
Because he beat up her husband and said, "If you ever touch my sister again, I'm going to kill you." Mm-hmm. And then he beats her up again, and Connie calls. And that's like when he goes to her, and it's when he's on his way to see her when he gets killed.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, cool. And then I like Tom Hagen too. Like, he's very much like, I think he's the smartest character in it. I mean, he's a lawyer, so he's gonna be pretty smart anyways. But I just like, and this goes to Vito's character a little bit too. He's not blood related to any of them, but he was just welcomed into the family.
Yeah.
And that goes to show Vito's character a little bit too. Again, like caring about people. I don't know if Michael would ever do anything like that. But I liked his character too. And Michael gives him the shaft too. Like he, what's the opposite of promote? Demote. Sorry, brain fart there. He demotes Tom because he'd been concierge this whole time. And he knocks him down and goes like, "You're not the guy anymore, Tom." And I get like his rationale is like, "You're not a wartime lawyer, but you are literally about to kill everyone. So does it really matter?" So yeah, and he's also, when he goes out to Vegas to talk with what's his name, Green. He owns the casino, and Michael is basically threatening him into handing the casino over to him. And pisses him off, and then Fredo's like, "You can't talk to him like this out there." Michael, like, I get his messages, don't ever go against the family, which I get is probably the right thing to do, don't ever go against the family. But, like, Michael, you are acting like a complete asshole to this guy. What did you expect? Right. And then he just kills him. His answer to taking over the casino is to kill the owner of the casino. So then I just don't like when a guy is in that, or his initial thought is like, "I'm going to kill a guy to get what I want." Like, that just isn't great characterization to me. It's kind of an easy way out, and I don't know. I didn't really love it. So, I remember liking the second one more.
Okay.
Mainly for De Niro. Because De Niro plays a young Vito Corleone. Like, it shows how he came to power.
Very cool. Okay.
And I remember loving that.
I haven't seen part 2.
And I remember really loving that, and with Michael being like, "Whatever, I don't really care about you." So, yeah. What were did you have any standout parts in the movie that you really liked? I mean, I've been really negative on it, really mainly negative on Michael. I did really, really like this movie. I liked it more in the rewatch than the initial time, because it is a long movie. There was less dragging in I mean, there's still some. I still think this could be a 2.5 hour long movie instead of 3, but it wasn't as draggy as I thought it was going to be. Maybe we watched it in 2 sittings. Maybe that helped a little, but.
For me, I think one of the most interesting scenes or like setups was when Michael goes to kill. And you'll have to remind me who they are exactly. When he goes to the restaurant and meets up with
that's guys. The police captain, and then I can't remember his name, but yeah, he's like the head narcotics guy. He's the one trying to introduce narcotics with the mafia families to New York.
Mm-hmm. But the way, just seeing like that whole thing play out where he's like, okay, like, I'm going to step in and I'm going to do this, and the other guys are helping him. Okay, well, you know, the bathrooms there, like the toilets, they have one of those old like tanks that are on the wall with the chain. So I think we can hide a gun back there because they will frisk you. They will check you to make sure. And just seeing that whole scene play out, and you know, they had made a big point like, okay, this is the gun you use, and we've rigged it like this so you don't have fingerprints, but make sure, you know, you leave it there at the scene, and like all this stuff, and just to like see, you know, he gets up and he goes to the bathroom like, okay, is the gun gonna be there? And he like searches for it for a while, and you like have a little bit of panic, like, oh my gosh, is he actually gonna be able to pull this off and do this? And he kills both the guys, and as he's walking, he's like almost to the threshold. I'm like, drop the gun, remember, you gotta leave the gun there. So I thought that scene was really really well done. I liked how they set it up, and I mean, Al Pacino is just he was just so good in it.
I agree. That scene was a big highlight too. I thought it would have been interesting too if I actually heard this on a different podcast, but I really liked it, so I was going to bring it up anyways. But the whole concept of that meeting was Michael wasn't supposed to know where they were going to meet. They found out through like a source of Sonny's where they were going to meet, and that's how they planted the gun. But at one point they're driving into New Jersey, and Michael's like, we're going to New Jersey? Goes, oh, don't worry about it. And I almost wish they would have like kept going into New Jersey and would have went to a different...
Like they had some misinformation.
Yeah, and they would have went to a different restaurant and just see how that would have played out.
Yeah.
I think that would have been really interesting. I agree, like when he gets there and he's kind of looking for the gun, you get a sense of like, oh, is it really there?
Yeah.
That was really good. But to have them go to a different restaurant and to try to problem solve it, that would have been really interesting to me.
No, for sure. Because, what they end up doing is, like, very shortly after he points that out, they just take a U-turn.
Yeah. Like, they're trying to get rid of a tail or something.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, you're right, the whole thing, because, they're kind of talking him through, like, okay, you're going to get in the car, and then this is the guy. He's going to check to make sure you don't have any weapons on you. And after you sit down at the table, don't get up to go to the bathroom too soon. And so it's like you kind of see all of this play out. So, sure enough, he's getting, like, checked in the car to see if there are any guns on him. And then he goes, so, it was neat to see it actually play out.
Salazzo and Captain McCluskey.
Yes, that's right.
FYI.
Yep.
A couple other just notes I had here were movies in the 70s really amped up the squeaky shoes effect. I felt like...
What does that mean?
Whenever they show someone like walking in a hallway, I feel like they're on tap shoes. Like you just hear the big tap, tap, tap. And I remember that from The Sting too, like just the sound effects on the shoes just being amped up. This is kind of a product of when it was made and the time period it takes place in, but a little casual racism in this movie. Kind of like French Connection, they throw
the N-word out there a few
words.
times.
Yeah.
Yep.
So some of that can be kind of tough to hear and see. I don't think there's really an excuse for it, but people would probably say, oh, it's just how movies were made in the 70s, or what people would actually say in the 40s and 50s. Well, I don't really need to hear it still, so whatever. And then the only other... it's not really an issue, it's just something I wanted to note. In the second half of the movie, basically when Michael is in Italy, or comes back from Italy, the timeline was kind of... It jumped around a little bit. Like, he sees Kay again, and she's like, oh, how long have you been back? And he goes, I've been back a year. I'm like, oh shit, you've been back a year already? And then I felt like...
That was weird.
And then I felt like 2 minutes later, they show him in a car with Kay, and they have 2 kids. And I'm like, whoa, you have 2 kids now? Like, you know what I mean? And then it just felt like it jumped around a lot. And, maybe they don't need to explain it. Maybe those... they say a year and they show the kids and that's showing the timeline moving on, but I was just like, oh, wow, like, this is going on for a while, so I don't know. It was just something to note. It's not that I wouldn't say I had an issue with, but just something I thought was kind of, maybe it could have been handled better, but, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll save our scores until after Real Justice. Did you have any other final thoughts on The Godfather?
No.
Okay. So we'll go into a quick review discussion of Cabaret, which was the most likely runner-up to The Godfather.
Maybe I'll have one final thought on The Godfather.
Oh, okay. What do you got?
It just really made me want a number 5 sandwich from Jimmy John's or Emilio's.
When you start laughing before you release the punchline.
Seriously,
which one is it from?
So I think at Jimmy John's, it's the Vito, and I think at Emilio's, it's called the Godfather, if I remember correctly.
I don't know.
But if you get with mayo, it's the Italian nightclub, so...
You're always hungry.
Oh my god, I know, hungry all the time. So as I'm saying there, I'm just like, oh, Vito, the Godfather. That's why they're the same exact sandwich at basically the same sandwich place. But, you know, Emilio's is Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yes.
Local.
Very much so. Ish, yeah. Jimmy John's has a terrible owner who trophy hunts. So.
Yeah, so that's why I'm glad that Emilio's is around, because we eat Emilio's and not Jimmy John's anymore.
Yeah, we're Emilio's household.
Yeah. So, can't wait till I'm done being pregnant and I can have lunch meat.
Alcohol? Oh, yeah.
I can have lunch meat.
Margarita.
Again. Oh my god, a margarita. Oh, I know, you're having a summer shandy right now and it's killing me.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's all good. It's worth it.
Back
to Cabaret.
We assume it's worth it.
Back to Cabaret.
Yes, Cabaret. Yeah, did you want to lead us into Cabaret? Never mind. All right, Cabaret, also released in 1972. It was directed by Bob Fosse. It won 8 Academy Awards, so Godfather won 3, this one 8, so a little bit of a difference there. It was nominated for, it looks like, 10, some up there in nominations as well. It won Best Leading Actress, Liza Minnelli, Best Actor in Supporting Role, Joel Grey, Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Best Sound, Film Editing, and Score. Sorry, I was going to say Screenplay. I almost said Screenplay. Best Original Score. It was nominated for but lost Best Picture and Writing. So this is... I thought this movie was going to be longer. Going into this, I was like, this is going to be our longest watch back-to-back. Because
with the 2 movies combined?
Yeah, with Godfather being 3, I thought this was going to be 2.5. It's only 2, so not that bad. Basically, an average nowadays.
Yeah, and it moved pretty quickly, I thought, so...
Yep, so this is basically... I don't want to say love triangle, but it's kind of a love story that takes place in Germany, with the backdrop being the rise of the Nazi Party. So Michael York's character... his name is Brian Roberts. He moves or goes to Germany for work-related reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And then kind of...
He's like an educator, so yeah, okay. He's working with students and stuff.
And he stumbles upon, the nightclub, the Cabaret nightclub, meets Liza Minnelli. They kind of fall in love and have this on-again, mainly on-again relationship throughout the movie. At one point, there's a third person introduced that kind of stirs things up a little bit. But then, in the end, he has to leave Germany for work again. And then, she stays, and basically the last shot of the movie is you see the audience of the Cabaret, and it's everyone wearing a swastika arm patch. So it's basically saying, the Nazi party has risen. So yeah, your thoughts on Cabaret?
Yeah. First of all, the thing that I couldn't get out of my mind was how much Liza Minnelli looked and behaved like Anne Hathaway. Just her mannerisms, her appearance looks so much like Anne Hathaway. So that was something I just kept thinking about through the whole movie. But I loved her character. I thought she was so endearing. She was so quirky, off the wall, just brash in your face, which was a fun contrast to Michael York's character Brian, because he's a little more reserved and buttoned up, and just seeing the two of them together was really interesting. Plus, she's always trying to come on to him, and he at first kind of rejects her, no, I haven't had successful relationships with women. I haven't really enjoyed sex with women. And so you're kind of getting this feel is he gay? Is he not sure what he's about? So it's fun seeing their relationship change and grow, and really they have this interesting understanding of each other, and they have an intimate relationship in the midst of that too. So seeing their relationship I think was really interesting to me. The Nazi stuff in the background was I don't really know what it added to the story. To me it wasn't present enough to be oh my god, Nazi party in Berlin, okay. But I was much more in tune to the relationship side. That was more interesting to me than any of the performances or like storyline that was going on at the actual cabaret.
Yeah. There. I mean, no, I get what you're saying. Like, I think you could watch this movie and just not even. There's a couple scenes where Brian like kicks a Nazi flag and then he gets beat up by Germans. So there's a couple scenes where they intertwine it. But yeah, you're right. Like, it isn't a big. It doesn't seem as upfront as you think it is.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Their relationship is probably the most intriguing thing. And I like Liza Minnelli's character. I should say I like her portrayal of the character. Her character can get kind of frustrating at times because she's very much the person of like, I want to have fun all the time and doesn't really own up to responsibility at all.
Very true. Yeah. So
her character can get kind of frustrating, like, and she never really thinks it's her fault, I want to say, at points. I remember when, so the third character that gets introduced that kind of mixes things up, his name is Max, and you instantly realize that him and Liza Minnelli's character have a connection, and there's a scene where Brian and her character are arguing, and she yells at him, well, I've been sleeping with Max on the side. And he looks at her and goes, well, so have I. And she's like, what? You two rat bastards. And he goes, two? Don't you mean three? But yeah, like, she never thinks it's her fault. She's, yeah, like I said, I like her portrayal, but her character can get kind of annoying at times. But I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. She's probably meant to be that way. But,
sure.
But yeah, I don't know. This movie is not necessarily up my alley. I've said it before, I don't love musicals. This isn't necessarily a musical, but music is very much at the forefront of it. Mm-hmm. I don't love movies that are like, and this isn't necessarily a genre, but I can think of cases like this where let's just put a love story in front of the backdrop of this important event that's going on in the world. That isn't the most creative thing to me. You know, Titanic is a big example of that, but that's one that works at least better in most people's minds. But like Pearl Harbor is, or it's Love Triangle, Pearl Harbor's going on. Like, I don't think it's a very creative way to do things. So, but the set design, the music, all that stuff is fantastic. The technical aspect of this movie is amazing. But yeah, story-wise, I think it isn't the most creative or best thing in the world, but there's some good acting performances in it, too. Mm-hmm. You didn't love the Master of Ceremonies, though, did you?
Oh, my God, he was terrifying.
Because he won the Oscar.
I hated him. I will just flat out say I did not... Yeah, the MC for the... at the Cabaret was, creepy, and the songs were weird, and I did not like him, but...
I was just thinking Michael York, so he's the lead in this, and we said he is in Logan's Run, sorry, I almost said Hogan's Heroes. It's Logan's Run, but he is also in the Austin Powers trilogy.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's oh shoot, I tried remembering it, so this wouldn't happen and I would forget, but he's Basil Exposition. He's like the head of the agency that Austin works for. So he's in it. That's the first thing I always think of him. I actually forgot he was in this movie until rewatching it. Uh-huh. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, like, this is still a good movie. People, it's a classic. I would say people should watch it. It's still worth watching. It isn't a 3-hour-long movie or anything like that. It's kind of a quick-ish 2-hour watch.
It's not available on HBO Max anymore, though.
Yeah, we started it on HBO Max, and then went to finish it, and it just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, so calendar rolled over to September, and they took it off, so and we own it, so it's fine, but if you're looking to stream it, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, so
yeah,
we can do a check, but it's not on HBO Max anymore, which was kind of funny.
That was just searching. It's not here.
I know, you put it in the search, you're like, we watched it on HBO Max, right? Like last night. I was like, yes, definitely. And I was gone. So, always be wary when you're starting something at the end of the month. Make sure you finish it in case it's being removed.
It is currently on the Watch TCM app, but that's only because it was on TCM recently. So that probably
it's not going to stay
It's not
forever.
going to stay on there very long.
Gotcha.
So yeah, all right. So that's Any thoughts? I didn't have a lot to say about Cabaret.
No.
Like, it's pretty straightforward on what it is.
Exactly. Yep, I think we covered it well.
Okay, so going into Real Justice, we doing this the same way we did last time. We have the 2 movies, Godfather and Cabaret. We've got 5 categories and 2 votes each for each category. The technical visuals, music/score, writing/story, the acting, which is both leading and supporting, and then favorite and best. So we can assign 1 to each, 2 to one of them, whatever we want. So yeah, let's start out with technical and visuals. What were your thoughts there?
So just like at first glance, like neither one really wowed me where I was like, wow, this is fantastic, this is amazing. But I would say each of them had their own style that I appreciated. Like The Godfather, I really loved the scenery. Just seeing them like at the Corleone house and when Michael's in Sicily and just some of the actual scenes, I really liked that. Plus one thing that caught my eye was that really set Diane Keaton's character Kay like apart from everyone else. Like she's always really like frilly and like a bright red color, like, and everyone else is very like subdued, buttoned up, like in their suits all the time. And it's like I liked that kind of like, we're gonna show just how much of like a naive outsider she is. So to me, I really liked that aspect. But I feel like at Cabaret, like I loved Liza Minnelli's like costuming, like her hair and makeup was always different. It was much more elaborate. So I am gonna split 1 vote each for those.
Yes, very fair. This one was kind of tough because I think they both have a costume design aspect. They both kind of take place. I think Cabaret's a little earlier, but they're kind of close to the same time frame. So there's a costume aspect to each of them. But yeah, you're like the set design and look to Cabaret has a little bit more to it. I split it as well. But I almost gave both to Cabaret, but I was kind of like, the look and feel and the costumes in Godfather, there's enough there for me to give that a point as well. So yeah, I split it as well, one to each. So moving on to music and score, I mean, I'll let you go first, but I'll go first. I gave both to Cabaret. I just thought it was pretty easy for me. That doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to you, but Godfather, I mean, they lost a nomination because they didn't have an original score. That doesn't mean you can't give it a point for it, but I was like, it wasn't even an original score. Okay. It does have a theme song that's kind of recognizable, but there's just, I mean, Cabaret is a musical. That doesn't mean it automatically wins, but there's so much more song to it, and dancing, all this stuff. I went with 2 with Cabaret. Okay.
And I decided to split mine here too. I gave 1 to Godfather, like mostly just because of like the main theme that plays beginning of the movie. It sticks with you. And for me, like Cabaret, like the actual musical numbers, I don't like that didn't tell the story to me. I can appreciate the fact that, a big part of Liza Minnelli's character is her like always kind of half-assing it in her career, and can you actually be a star in the Cabaret? So like music plays a role generally, but like I didn't think the actual music was like a big standout. So 1 for each for me.
Okay. Maybe you have the better hot take than I do. I was a little more
maybe
like, Cabaret, it's a musical. The Godfather, like it has a good theme, but other than that, there's like nothing.
There isn't much, no.
So I could see you going like the score to the Godfather and then the songs to Cabaret, going that way. So
sure.
Maybe you have the better take than me on that one. So writing and story. So writing is the dialogue. Which movie do you think had the better dialogue to it? Story, what story did you like more? And for me, this was I think both go to The Godfather.
Agreed.
I mean, The Godfather has some of the most quotable lines of all time. And, he's sleeping with the fishes, take the cannolis, leave the gun. Made him an offer he can't refuse. I mean, there's so many quotes in this movie. It's got great dialogue. And then just the story to me is more interesting. I care more about the story. Like, here's a look at lives of the mafia and their war against these other families, and how Michael's character, even though I didn't really like Michael's character, how he came to power is just more interesting to me than this love story set to this somewhat backdrop of the Nazi Party coming to fruition. So I went with both to The Godfather.
Yeah, I did too. The story is so complex, and they do a good job of weaving in so many characters and like their different motivations. And like it's intricate, but it keeps you interested. And to me, it's much more original than, like you said, like a love triangle. Like a struggling performer dealing with a love triangle. Like, how many times has Hollywood done that story? Like, hey, here's a struggling artist. Oh, okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to go to The Godfather for me.
All right, acting is next, so you can kind of give a point. I mean, however you want, but the way I look at it is lead, so you can look at the leading performances, compare them, and the supporting cast as well. So lead is kind of tricky because Al Pacino felt, and then you talked how you agree that like he's kind of the lead, but even if you take Pacino and Brando compare, I do like Liza Minnelli's performance, but I don't know. I went with both of them for The Godfather because I just think Pacino and Marlon Brando are amazing in their roles, and so is Liza Minnelli, but they're just, I guess, a little more amazing. And then supporting roles, I don't really think there is a whole lot in Cabaret. I know Joel Grey won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but I love the Best Supporting Character, or the supporting characters in The Godfather more. I love Sonny. I love Tom Hagen. Connie isn't in it a lot, but she has somewhat of a storyline there. So yeah, I went with both for The Godfather.
Yeah, I did the same too. Like, you're right that I really enjoyed Liza Minnelli's portrayal of Sally, but Al Pacino just was so fantastic, and the rest of the cast was so good. I mean, you had 4 acting nominations amongst them, and everyone, like, top to bottom, was just really phenomenal. So, 2 for acting, to The Godfather for me.
And then the last one is best and favorite. What did you do for those?
So, I think The Godfather is a better movie. Cabaret was a little bit easier to get through, just it's a little bit more lighthearted, but Godfather wins it for me. For both? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep, same. I mean, same to me. I actually liked Cabaret more than I thought I would. Mm-hmm. I remember I watched it the first time a couple of years ago and going like, oh, that was better than I thought it was. But The Godfather is it's a classic for a reason. Maybe not necessarily. It's number 3 on the AFI's Top 100. Maybe it's that high for some people. I don't know if it's that high for me, but it's still a classic and like one of the better movies made. Yeah. So both take it for me on that as well. It's like, and when you think of like, a lot of people look at the 70s as really like an amazing decade in film, and to have The Godfather part, like I feel like that is the iconic, like quintessential movie from the 70s. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do view it that way. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was number 1 on IMDb for the longest time, and then Shawshank overtook it a couple of years ago, or a number of years ago. But I think a lot of people, if you think of like movie, this is, for whatever, good, bad, and indifferent, this is probably what a lot of people think of. Mm-hmm. Classic American cinema. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, The Godfather 1, I didn't think it would be that too close, but it was, Cabaret had 5 points to 15 for Godfather, so it was a little closer last time we did it, but I kind of expected it. Yeah. With this one. I mean, that doesn't take away from what Cabaret is. Like, it's still an enjoyable movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Godfather just takes it in different directions. It's crazy to think The Godfather is considered one of the like classics of all time, one of the best movies made, and it only won 3 Oscars, and then like Cabaret won 8. But that's because like it had a lot of technical features to it. So given that, what scores did you give each of them? So for The Godfather, the score I give it is an 8.2. Really well-rounded movie. It's not one that I'm going to sit down and watch every weekend, but really enjoyed it. And Cabaret for me is a 7.6.
7.6.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Cabaret, I was trying to think of my score for Cabaret. Cabaret for me, yeah, I'm thinking, I guess, a 7.8, kind of in that area for me, for Cabaret. It's still good. That's in my scale of very good movie. If you're in the 7s, it's good, and high 7s is very good for me. So it's still very good, but just not, it isn't something I'm going to sit down and rewatch anytime soon. It's like, I've seen it, all right, cool, great.
Yeah. It's not going to be the first thing on my list to recommend to people if they're looking for something they haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Godfather, I'm going to give it a 9.3. Like, it's in the 9s for me. It is a classic, and especially watching it. It may have been lower if I hadn't rewatched it, but rewatching it, I enjoyed it a lot more for whatever reason. There's still some parts where it kind of drags for me that I think could be altered. I mean, maybe it's just a product of its time. Movies are made a little different these days, but it's still, a very, very good movie to me.
Beautiful.
All right. Moving on to the Academy Awards for 1972 was the 45th Academy Awards. You kind of noted a couple things. Al Pacino did not attend because he was upset he was not in the leading category. Marlon Brando also was not there. He was protesting the treatment of Native Americans, so he sent Sacheen Littlefeather in his place to accept awards. Her real name was Marie Louise Cruz. I think she was an actress at the time, but she was of Native American descent, so that's why she went for him. So yeah, a couple of things going on there, because I think a couple of years earlier, George C. Scott did not attend the Academy Awards for when he won. It wasn't really to protest anything. It was more like he didn't think it was fair. He's like, no one else was good that year for Best Acting. I'm going to win easily, so I'm just not going to accept this. So
Yeah.
A couple interesting notes there. But did you want to dive into the nominees for us?
Yeah. Do you want to start with acting, or are we looking at screenplays too?
Oh, let's do some screenplays, because there's a couple movies in there that
All right.
didn't get many other nominees that I wanted to at least mention.
Sure. So the nominees for adapted screenplay were Cabaret, The Emigrants, Pete and Tilly, Sounder, and then the winning screenplay was The Godfather, which we said co-written by Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo.
Yeah, which, that's probably one of the best screenplays around. So many quotable lines, and we already talked about, like, the writing that we liked from it, so rightfully should have won. Honestly, in this category, haven't seen a whole lot of these other ones. We've seen Cabaret. I've heard of Sounder. Maybe I should watch that sometime, but yeah, I don't know. Godfather, I think, was just a clear favorite going into it, and there probably wasn't going to be a whole lot that was going to beat it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. For original screenplay, the nominees were The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, Lady Sings the Blues, Murmur of the Heart, Young Winston, and then The Candidate.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to talk about, The Candidate, a little bit. I was happy to see that it won. So this is a movie, it stars Robert Redford, where I think it's Peter Boyle who's in it. He's a campaign manager and picks Robert Redford as someone to run against some, I can't remember if it's for governor or someone in Congress, but they want him to run against this guy, kind of as a joke. They have no intention of Robert Redford winning. But then as he starts going on the campaign, he starts getting more and more traction and actually starts having a chance to beat this guy. So then they start taking it seriously, and it's kind of, I don't want to say, maybe it's kind of a satire on the whole political world, but so he's running this campaign on his true values, and he's starting to gain traction, but then when he starts gaining traction, they start trying to turn him into a atypical politician, and he doesn't really like that. So it's actually a really good movie. I watched on Turner Classic Movies a couple of years ago. I think it's one of Robert Redford's better movies that I don't think a lot of people know about. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. I was really happy to see that it won an Oscar. So yeah, that's a pretty good movie that I think people should check out if they can.
Cool. Looking at the supporting actress nominees, that year we had Janine Berlin for The Heartbreak Kid, Geraldine Page for Pete and Tilly, Susan Tyrell for Fat City, Shelley Winters for The Poseidon Adventure, and then the winner was Eileen Heckert for Butterflies Are Free.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of these. The only one I know of and have seen is Poseidon Adventure, and I honestly, for whatever reason, in my brain thought Shelley Winters won for that. If someone would have asked me like who won Best Supporting Actress in '72 and gave me a list of the movies that were nominated or gave me a list of the nominees, I probably would have said Shelley Winters because I just know that she got nominated for that movie and I thought she had won. But yeah, I honestly haven't seen too much of the other ones. I've heard of The Heartbreak Kid, never seen it. So yeah, this is always good looking at these movies. It might be a list of some movies I should watch down the road if I see them on Turner Classic Movies or streaming somewhere.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I haven't heard of any of these besides The Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, which that got remade in the mid-2000s with Kurt Russell. Wasn't very... Josh Lucas was in it.
Sounds alright.
It was okay, not very good, but the original one is really good, so check that out if people haven't seen it.
Nice. Supporting actor category. We've already mentioned a number of these names.
All of them but one.
So we've got Eddie Albert for The Heartbreak Kid, James Caan, Robert Duvall, and Al Pacino, all nominated for The Godfather. And then the winner was Joel Grey for Cabaret.
Well, how do you feel about this?
It's a travesty. I was looking at this and just went, when we were putting notes together, I'm like, this has got to be one of the most, like, ridiculous, like, egregious wins. Like, really? The MC, he doesn't interact with anyone. He doesn't interact with Liza Minnelli. He doesn't interact with Michael. Like, he's there for a few musical numbers. No, there's no way.
Who would you have picked?
Al Pacino, hands down.
Yeah. Yeah, the right answer is probably Al Pacino. I kind of wanted to give it to James Caan because that was my favorite character.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, Al Pacino was, out of the people who were actually nominated, probably the correct choice. I would maybe move him to leading actor, and if you do that, then I would give it to James Caan for playing Sonny. But yeah, there's no way it can be the MC. Like, I don't know if this was like a joke or a bit, or if someone read the wrong name and no one fixed it.
Ridiculous.
No offense to Joel Grey or anything, but man, like, you have three of the best actors in their best roles of all time here: Duvall, Pacino, and Caan. Like, and maybe they split the votes on it. Like, maybe that's what happened here.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of is they split the votes on each other, and that's how Joel Grey won. But I would have been happy with any of the nominees from The Godfather to win it over him.
For sure.
So
agree 100%. Yeah, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Al Pacino for not being there because what a joke. Anyway, the Best Actress nominees that year were Diana Ross for Lady Sings the Blues, Maggie Smith for Travels with My Aunt, Cicely Tyson for Sounder, Liv Ullmann for The Emigrants, and the winner was Liza Minnelli for Cabaret.
Yeah, but Diana Ross and Maggie Smith getting some nominees.
Very cool, yep.
But I mean, this is going to be Liza Minnelli, all the way. Did you mention that her mom was Judy Garland?
I haven't.
In case people didn't know that?
Yeah.
And then her dad is someone that we've seen the movie, but we haven't recorded the episode yet, but he's an Academy Award-winning director. Do you know what movie he directed?
I don't remember.
Gigi.
Oh, that's right. He did Gigi.
I'm pretty sure it was Gigi. It was either that or American in Paris. I don't know why I'm getting those two mixed up, but I'm pretty sure
They
it was.
both take place in Paris?
Yeah, I guess that's probably it. Musicals that take place in Paris.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Her mother's Judy Garland. And there are moments where you can see the resemblance or you can hear it in their voice, so it was kind of cool. I would be interested, have you seen Lady Sings the Blues before?
I have not.
I mean, because Diana Ross portraying Billie Holiday, like, that sounds like a slam dunk to me.
Yeah. No,
so it'd be really interesting to see what her performance was like. So,
that's good, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. The acting, Best Actor nominations that year. Michael Caine for Sleuth. Laurence Olivier for Sleuth as well. Peter O'Toole in The Ruling Class, and Paul Winfield in Sounder. As we mentioned, Marlon Brando won for The Godfather.
Yep. And as we've said, like, Al Pacino should probably be in this category, which is crazy to think that a list of 5 nominees, 2 movies could potentially take 4 of the slots, because 2 people from Sleuth, which I've seen and is great. They remade that recently too, but the original is very, very good. And then 2 people from The Godfather being in there. But yeah, I mean, some big names here, right? Laurence Olivier, Peter O'Toole, Michael Caine. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because Sleuth has 2 nominees. They probably were splitting the vote between each other a little bit. That probably helped Marlon Brando win because he isn't on the screen a whole lot. Like, I wouldn't have thought of him as a lead, but I'm happy he won because it is an iconic role. It's just one of those cases where I just may not necessarily agree that it's a leading actor, but I'm happy he won. I don't know, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, without knowing much about the other movies, I mean, I think he did a great job in the role. It's just the aspect of, was it a leading role or not versus, Al Pacino and stuff. So that's really the only thing that might be a little bit controversial, I think. Okay, looking at the Best Director nominees that year, we have John Boorman for Deliverance, Jan Trell for The Emigrants, Francis Ford Coppola for The Godfather, Joseph Mankiewicz for Sleuth, and the winner was Bob Fosse for Cabaret.
Mm-hmm, which I kind of get him winning over Coppola. I don't know, with the dance pieces and the set designs and everything, I could kind of see it. Plus, part of me is like, Coppola wins Best Director a couple of years later for The Godfather Part 2, so whatever, spread the wealth a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, Mankiewicz, I've seen, Sleuth is great. Have you seen Deliverance?
Not the whole thing.
There's a movie that wasn't getting any love till we brought it up here, basically.
Yeah, that caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting that.
That movie, I wish it would have got a little more love. I mean, Jon Voight and Burt Reynolds are in that. They both could have gotten a nomination. It's tough when, The Godfather's taking up 3 spots in supporting actor. And Sleuth 2 and lead, so they're kind of taking up spots with the same movie. But I could have easily seen Voight and Burt Reynolds getting nominations for that movie. That movie's a trip. That scares people from taking canoeing trips.
Oh, yeah.
So,
for sure.
That's one worth noting for sure. But I kind of get Bob Fosse winning director here over Coppola.
Mm-hmm. We should look at, or I should just ask my Uncle Dave, Joseph Mankiewicz. Is he related to the Mankiewicz that are always on TCM?
I think they are.
Whenever I see that name, I just assume.
Yeah, I think because Ben Mankiewicz is one of the hosts on TCM. I'm pretty sure that's
he's probably come up before. Yeah,
his uncle or something. The guy that directed he's won 2 Oscars. He directed all About Eve. That Mankiewicz, I'm pretty sure it's his uncle. And let me see if it's the same as this one. It is Joseph L. Mankiewicz. He's won it says 4 Oscars, but I think 2 of them are for directing, and then some of them are for writing. Yeah, 2 for directing, 2 for writing. I think it's uncle nephew type situation. Yeah. But yeah, I love Ben Mankiewicz on TCM. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. He's really good. Anyway, the Best Picture nominees that year: Cabaret, Deliverance, The Emigrants, Sounder, and then The Godfather.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be The Godfather. Again, I'm glad Deliverance got some love here because I do think that that's a really good movie. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be The Godfather that wins. So yeah, not much else to say. I mean, it's an instant classic, so there you go.
Yep. Beautiful. So yeah, those are all the winners and nominees from 1972. 45th Awards.
Yep. One thing to note, too, Michael York didn't get a Best Actor nomination. I mean, we've already discussed a number of people who potentially could have gotten nominees and didn't, but, just wanted to note a couple, and Michael York didn't get a nomination for his role, and, I've already talked about Burt Reynolds and Jon Voight a little bit, but not a lot of snubs going on this year, but there's a couple worth noting. It would have been cool for Robert Redford to get nominated too. Apparently Jeremiah Johnson came out this year as well, which I love. That's a Sidney Pollack movie with Robert Redford as well. So Redford had 2 movies that could have gotten him a nomination, and he didn't get it for either one. So that's kind of interesting. And then John Cazale, I'm saying Fredo. I mean, we've talked about it. He's only been in 6 movies, but they've all been nominated for Best Picture or one.
Yeah.
He's more prevalent, I think, in the second one, and we'll get to that eventually, but, maybe it's better to talk about it then, but, maybe they could have given them 4 Best Supporting Actor nominees and just given one to him as well, because he never got nominated for an Oscar, so yeah. You want to dive into our top 5?
Yeah.
Which, since, Michael Corleone is a character that I didn't necessarily love, but he's a character that I think a lot of people do like. He is a bad guy that I think a decent amount of people would maybe root for. So, top 5 bad guys that you root for in films. So, let's see. What is your... And this is just... I said bad guys if they're breaking the law or doing something malicious. So, kind of loose in that sense, but what's your number 5?
So, number 5 is actually a couple. But it's Nick and Amy from Gone Girl.
Okay, so you root for them.
It's... Okay, it's one of those things where it's because the first half of the movie, or first part of the movie, is everything from Nick's perspective. And you're like, oh my god, this poor lady, all of this stuff that she went through because of him, I am so sympathetic to her. I'm rooting for her in her, she's gone, she's missing, she's dead, we don't know. But then all of a sudden it flips and you find out she put together this master plan of how to fake kill herself or frame him, and you're just like, oh my god, how has he put up with this crazy lady? I totally understand him. I'm rooting for him. And the end of the movie, they stay together, and you're just like, what the fuck? I guess that kind of makes sense. They kind of work with each other. I mean, I guess it's probably better for them to stay together than find someone else to be with. So it's one of those weird, super conflicting characters.
Yeah, I had that as an honorable mention, but I didn't necessarily root for them, especially since
it's
spoiler
more about,
alert, but
having some sympathy for them.
Yeah, because spoiler.
But it changes.
She kills
Neil Patrick Harris. Very gory.
Yeah,
they made that way worse in the movie than they did the book. From what I remembered, anyway, I just remember being like, "Oh, I was not prepared for that."
Into that. Okay. My number 5, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
All right.
They rob banks, so not good guys, but definitely rooting for them the whole time. That will be a movie upcoming in the future, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I could have actually. I had the Sting crew on here as well. They're not on the list, but it's basically the same 2 characters too. But they're people who rob banks, so by definition, they're bad guys, but rooting for them. They're kind of on the run from other bad guys or the law, but they're just, I don't know, they're just funny, and they, other than robbing banks, they seem like a good hang. So
right.
So that's my number 5.
Okay, nice. My number 4 is, I told you, I feel like I could have made a decent list of just Leonardo DiCaprio characters, because he plays some very conflicting characters. But this is one of Leo's portrayals, from Catch Me If You Can, Frank Abagnale.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly breaking the law and skirting the truth and doing everything he can to be caught, but you're like cheering him on at the same time. It's like, yeah, just it was like amazing to see all the things he's able to get away with. So, you kind of root for him as he goes. So
yeah,
that's my number 4.
No, for sure. It's one of those people would call it victimless crimes. Whether I don't know if they're actually victimless, but that's what people say.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Robert De Niro in Heat. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a Michael Mann movie. Al Pacino's a cop. De Niro is a bank robber. He's not as so Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid actually just seem like nice guys. De Niro's not necessarily that, but for whatever reason, you're still kind of rooting for him in the movie. It's a cat and mouse movie between like the cop and the robber, and they have a scene together where they're at dinner and they're actually talking to each other, and they have this conversation where it's basically them saying, "I respect what you're doing. I completely understand why, but like you're not gonna catch me." So I kind of pull for. I haven't seen the movie in a while, but that was one of the first ones I thought of. He has that line. Never be attached to anything that you can't flat leave in 30 seconds when the heat's around the corner. De Niro is my number 4.
Okay, it's a good choice. I have to watch that movie sometime. My number 3 is Danny Ocean. I think he's a very easy person to root for, and he finds people that you want to get screwed over, but at the end of the day, like, still stealing $20 million.
Like 160 million. I mean, 20 and he gets himself, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, very true. So, yeah, Danny Ocean. Enough said.
So the George...
Enough said. That's Bernie Mac's game in the third one, I think.
So the...
Ocean's 13.
George Clooney or Frank Sinatra?
I am thinking George Clooney.
Good, because the Frank Sinatra one sucks.
Okay.
My number 3 is another De Niro one. I kind of just realized that. But Travis Bickle, Taxi Driver. So he murders a bunch of people, including a pimp, to free Jodie Foster, who's a 12-year-old prostitute. So, I mean, bad guy. He, threatens to assassinate a politician and murders a bunch of people. But he's doing it for a quote-unquote good reason and freeing this 12-year-old.
For sure.
So I have Travis Bickle at number 3.
That's good. I still haven't seen that movie. That's like one of the few classics left on my list I haven't seen. So, good choice. My number 2 is the Kim family from Parasite.
That's a good one. I didn't think of that one.
And, it's not the most malicious thing. Really, they're just trying to con their way into working for this rich family so that they can get out of their poor situation. But you realize how awful the Park family is from time to time. You're just like, yeah, you should keep leeching off of them. You totally deserve this. And then especially once you get down at the end, you realize that they think these people are garbage anyway. It's like, yeah, Kim family, why not?
Well, all right.
For you.
All right. My number 2 is Marv and Harry.
Yeah.
Home Alone.
Yeah.
Because that kid sucks.
You're right.
Kevin, right? Kevin McAllister?
Oh, yeah.
Sucks. I'm rooting for Marv and Harry after a certain point. So, yeah, kidnap him. Do whatever you gotta do with that kid. Take care of him. Whatever. He sucks. So, yeah, I'm rooting for Marv and Harry.
Okay. All right. Good choice.
Yeah.
You mentioned this one already. I'm honestly surprised that it wasn't in your top, but my number 1 is Hooker and Gondorf from The Sting.
I only want to put one. It's the same 2 actors.
Yeah.
So I only want to put one on here, and I totally understand.
It's like the Ocean's 11 crew. It's like you're, pulling ones over on people who deserve it. So it's like, yeah, you're breaking the law too, but I like you better. You have a good reason to break the law. So
my number
screw them over.
My number 1 is the Ocean's 11 crew, because they're robbing Terry Benedict. Yeah. So they're bad guys, but yeah.
I don't know why I picked just Danny Ocean instead of like all of them, because I did groups and couples and families for the rest of them.
I don't know. Well, there you go.
But anyway, that's a good choice. I agree with you.
Yep. I mean, that's pretty. I think that's one of the easiest ones to think of.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But for good reason. It's just easy. It's weird because Terry, he doesn't do anything illegal that I can think of. He's just a guy they don't like.
Yeah.
So they rob him.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine, I guess.
Exactly. Good list.
Yep. So there you go.
Bad guys to root for.
Yep.
I like that.
So any honorable mentions of your list? I only have a couple here.
Yeah, I would say I really only had a few. And this one, like, I don't know if I mean, I guess he is kind of a bad guy, but Jordan Belfort, that was another Leo character that I probably
He's definitely a bad guy. That's the thing. The part I would have issues with there is root for.
I had that backwards. I'm like, not really someone I would root for, but an interesting character that you're like, yeah, fascinated by, even though he does all this terrible shit. And this one, like, not a bad guy at all, but Jack Lemmon's character in The Apartment, one of the most likable people. But the reason why the movie's called The Apartment is that he, like, rents out his apartment to all of his insurance executives that he works with, like, and cheat on their wives and their spouses and stuff. It's like, yeah, that's pretty shitty. So he's not really a bad person, but he's kind of, helping these people with their extramarital affairs. Mm-hmm. Definitely someone you root for, but not necessarily a bad guy. Just someone that I wanted to bring up, especially with that being a Best Picture winner, too. So. Yeah,
and I also had Gone Girl on my honorable mentions, and the Sting crew. A couple that may or may not fit, so that's why I left them off. But Vader or Anakin, he's a bad guy, and you kind of root for him, at least.
He's sympathetic for sure. Like that was something that I tried to like find the balance between. Like, okay, are they just a sympathetic character, or did I actually find myself like rooting for them?
And
so, that's decent.
That's where these last two don't necessarily more sympathetic, or you kind of get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Like Thanos is like, you get where he's coming from, but I'm not rooting necessarily for him.
Yeah.
Also, same with Killmonger.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
I thought about that too.
Trying to help out other like African Americans in the States and like other minority, but like I don't know if I'm necessarily rooting for him. And then the same, you may not have seen this, but Jonathan Rhys-Meyers' character from Match Point. So he
I don't know that.
Is married. It's a Woody Allen movie, so of course it has adultery in it. So he's married, sleeps with Scarlett Johansson, so he's cheating on his wife by sleeping with Scarlett Johansson. Gets her pregnant, murders her, and then the back half of the movie is him trying to cover up the murder.
Okay.
So I don't know. I wasn't necessarily rooting for him, but like it's one where like a bad guy's the kind of portrayed as the protagonist, even though he may not necessarily be that. So
gotcha. All right.
So yeah, there we go. So yeah, that's the show. That's what we got for you. Make sure to give us a review and rating if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. And make sure to follow us on social media or at OscarReelPod on both Twitter and Instagram.
Did we have any social media engagement with like votes or people with guesses?
The votes on Facebook I couldn't get to work for some reason. I'll try that again, but I couldn't get a poll to work on Facebook for some reason. I did a late post on the emojis, so I didn't have as many people guess, but if someone did, it was someone I work with, daytime job, Liz Kurth on Facebook, got it correct for The Godfather and Cabaret.
Nice.
So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Call out to her really quick. But yeah, I'll have to try the poll again on Facebook, because despite the fact that I lost,
I need more votes for my top 5 lists.
Well, you already won, so I don't know if you do.
I'm greedy. I need more.
Okay.
I'm a bad guy to root for.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So I'll try that again. But yeah, quick shout out there. So yeah, thank you. But make sure to follow us on social media platforms. I had Oscar Real Pod on both. I'll send out another emojis for the next Real Justice that we have going on. And yeah, that's all we got for you. So from Matt and Haley, this has been the Oscar Real Movie Pod.